Okay, hello all coin collectors and people that want to start coin collecting. Today I'm going to teach you all about coins and what to know. So, let's get started. So first thing I would probably recommend is to take some amount of money from $10 to $50 and bring it to like a coin shop, like an antique shop that's like near you, and get something there and hopefully start up your coin collection. There's a lot of other stuff too, so you can start. How I started it was I started with collecting foreign coins, and then I did quarters, and then I started just moving up from there. So there's so many denominations, so many designs. Let me go through them all right now. There's one other thing to keep in mind. There's one option that actually sometimes, if it gets a high grade, that you can do, which is grading coins. You do have to spend $35 a coin. It's a little expensive. I would recommend it for later in your coin collecting journey. Okay, here we go. Okay, so first up, the denominations that were first introduced were in actually 1792, where they made where they started experimenting with it. It was like the experimental coinage of 1792. So they had these silver center, like half-cent things that they had, and then they also had special large cents that were giant. So the cents we have now are the small cents, and then they had these large cents, but these ones from 1792 were even bigger. They were giant. And then they also had the half Disney and the Disney, which the half Disney is considered the very first American coinage. The 1792 half Disney. Disney is about the same kind of thing as a dime. So a Disney, half Disney, was like the half dimes, which is what they had when they were made of silver rather than nickel. For our current nickels, they were called half dimes. So it started with the half Disney. And then there was also the 1792 Disney, which is the same kind of thing. Disney means dime. And then there was also this strange 1792 undenominated $quarter that was about the size of a modern day half dollar. Then 1793 were two things, the half cent and the large cent. We're starting with the half cent. Okay, so the half cent started in 1793 and was this interesting design that was the Liberty cap, and there was a Liberty cap facing to the right, and that was what the design in 1793. And then I believe in 1796 they changed it to it facing left, or the other way around. It was just a lot of different designs that they started off with. The main thing was it was a half cent. And then they had the draped bust, and then they kept moving on. The capped bust, which is the most common half cent you see now, and then there was the Liberty head ones. They had Liberty on it. There was a braided hair look, and you normally would see those in actually large cents, but those there are half cent ones. There are half cents that had that, except most of them were proofs. They didn't make many for circulation, therefore making them at a higher value. So that's kind of the end of the half cent. And in 1857, James Buchanan decided to stop the half cents and the large cents and completely get rid of the half cent, but instead of the large cents, do the small cent. So then, also in 1793, created was the large cent. So the large cent was the same denomination as our current penny cent, and it was just bigger. It was just bigger. So the large cents, it's an interesting concept to think. I'll show you some of these coins at the end of the video. And yeah, they're very interesting. So they started with the flowing hair, where Liberty's hair was flowing back, and then after that was the Liberty cap, just like how I explained with the half cent. they didn't do different directions. I think it was just one direction they decided on. And then the draped bust, and which I do have one of those draped bust large cents. I'll show you that at the end of the video. Stay tuned. Then there were the classic head large cents, which are not actually that common. They're only from 1808 to 1814, I believe. And then in 1815 was the only year they did not make the large cents because of a lack of copper. And then for half cents, the only year they didn't make them was 1837 for a similar reason. Then after that was the famous Liberty Head large cents. Even though all of them already had Liberty, they called these the Liberty Head because it was a different design that everybody agreed on liking. So, yeah. They decided on this because it was just what people wanted. And these I really like collecting. Once you get later in your coin collecting journey, they're fun to collect. They can get expensive though. They're from they can go from anywhere from $10 to $100. They're quite a bit of money, but they're fun to collect. I have a few different ones. So I start with the matron head, and then the braided hair, which is similar to what I talked about with the half cents. So, yeah, then, like what I said for the half cents, large cents went away from the decision by James Buchanan in 1857, and then some new stuff happened. So then was the small cents. Starting with the Flying Eagle, starting with 1856, which is the extremely rare one. There are only a few, and it's worth somewhere around $1 million. And then 1857, 1858. It's all the years they made the Flying Eagle, and if you exclude the 1856, 1857, 1858, they're actually pretty common. And then the Indian head cents. These can be really fun to collect too, and they're not as expensive. Watch my video about how to start coin collecting on a $20 budget, and you'll see more about them. So, Indian head cents started in 1859 and ended in 1909. And at the very two last years, 1908 and 1909, San Francisco Mint made the special San Francisco Indian head pennies, which nowadays are worth a lot of money, $1,000 and more. So, after that, the Lincoln cents that we're all used to, except the back was different. The back had wheat stalks on them, therefore giving them the name a wheat penny. So the wheat pennies, they had wheat stalks on the back, so 1 cent right in the middle, and that was it. Started in 1909, and originally had VDB right between at the bottom of the wheat stalks, but the mint soon realized this, and they decided they did not want that on the coin. But in 1918 or 1919, it was one of those, they put VDB actually on the front of the penny. It's really strange. Even when you look on a modern day penny, you still see it. It's in a really hard place to see, so not many people notice. So you're going to look at Abraham Lincoln right at the bottom of, Abraham Lincoln, right at the bottom of, kind of the bust of him. You'll see a little VDB. It's really small, but especially on the modern coins that are in really nice condition, they're still shiny, they're in, mint state condition, you'll see really easily a clear VDB. But they used to have them on the back only in 1909 and the original years. And those can be worth anything from $5 up. The 1909 SVDBs, that's what's worth a lot of money. Those are worth $500 and up. Those are worth a lot of money. Also for errors, I'll explain that a bit more at the end of the video, but errors is it's a whole different thing. So you got the double dies. So there's actually quite a few double dies. So one of the double dies, the most famous one for wheat cents, the only one I'll talk about right now, I'll explain more about this at the end of the video, is the famous 1855 double die penny. Those are pretty cool. I do not have any of them. They're really rare. They're like $2,000 and more in value. But yeah. Then in 1958 just 1959, they changed it to the memorial penny. And they're still made of copper. Remember that. They're still made of 95% copper, 5% zinc. Well, what ended up happening was 1982. They decided because making copper pennies was actually like, copper was starting to grow in value. Before it was just worth 1 cent, that amount of copper. But it's worth 2 cents now. And it's still to this day worth 2/3 cents, even if you find a pre-1982, which is so easy to find. You can be making money quickly. I know it's literally 1 cent you're making off of a penny, but at least it's something. And those ones, they changed from 95% copper, 5% zinc, to 95% zinc, 5% copper. And guess what that 5% copper was? It was just the coating. It was just the, when you look at a modern day penny, you're like, wait, it's not zinc colored, which is like a silver color. It's still like the copper color. And that's because that's what's coated on top. Basically, what's coated on top is a very thin layer of copper over the zinc. If you like put like a hammer to it or something, I don't know why you do that. And if you like were able to like chip away at it somehow, you'd actually see the silver color being unveiled. In fact, I have a penny I'll show you later in this video where all the edges have been like etched off, and you can actually see it looks like icicles kind of coming in, and they were and that's the zinc coming in. And then after that, well, there were a lot of different penny designs. There were still Lincoln. They have had Lincoln on it for over 100 years. And they had a shield reverse. But before that was the 2009 pennies. You can still find them in circulation, except they're actually a bit harder to find because they made a bit less of them. In 2009, I've been always thinking, why do the 2009 pennies, why did they have such a small mintage? And all the coins from that year, 2009 penny, nickel, dime, quarter, $50, dollar, all of them were a small thing. And I think I figured it out. So when you look at the stuff from 2009, that was the year where they made the most coin designs. If you look more into it, they made the most coin designs that year. So I think that's why. And then just the memorial cents. And in 2023, this year, April, I think they are stopping the production of pennies because there's just a lot of problems with it. So let's move on to the next one. So now we're going into something kind of interesting. So that is random denominations. They had some very different denominations from what we knew. Also, there's a bit of interesting stuff with the nickels, which, like I said earlier, had to do with a half dime. I'll explain that a bit more soon. So, 2 cent pieces. Very weird to think of. They're from Civil War to Civil War time. I think it was 1864 or sometime around then. Yeah, 1864 to sometime in the 1870s. So that's what they did. I don't know why 2 cents. It's pretty random, but it gets even randomer. 3 cents. Wow. So 3 cents. That's so weird to say. A 3 cent coin. They started with the silver 3 cent coins, and they are absolutely tiny. They're smaller than a dime. They're just so tiny. It's just a tiny amount of silver, but they're somehow still worth quite a bit. They're worth like $20 to $50 somehow. I can't believe it's worth that much, but it's crazy because it's such a tiny piece of silver, and they're still 10% copper. So most of that weight is just copper. And then are the nickel ones, but it gets weird because the ones overlap. They overlap like the nickel design, which was made of like pure nickel or something. It was something similar to that. And they were bigger. They were like the size of a dime, or maybe slightly bigger. So they actually overlapped in time. It's very interesting. I don't know why, because they're different sizes, they're different metals, they're completely different, besides the fact that they're both 3 cent pieces. So I always thought that's very interesting. So the next thing is kind of interesting, and it's what they had for a while, and that's half dimes. So this is what we get into technically the first kind of thing of silver. So silver is a big thing. It's a lot. There are a lot of silver things. There's a lot of bullion silver coins. I'll talk a little bit about that more later in this video. It might be part of a separate video too, though. And basically they made nickels out of silver, and they're much smaller. They're about the size of a dime. They're really small, and basically there are these silver ones, and they start with they did the same things that it basically followed the same pattern as the dime. So seated Liberty, and then they ended them in I believe sometime in the 1860s, right after the Civil War. I don't remember what specific year. And then you get into nickels, which were made of nickel, copper. I don't know how much of a difference. Mostly nickel, a little bit of copper. It's probably like 90% nickel, 10% copper. I'm not sure. But they started with the shield nickel. They look pretty cool. I'll show you that coin later in this video. And they started with that. And the ones from the 1860s you see a lot. Well, not in circulation, obviously. And then 1870s are a bit harder to find. And then 1880s, the really hard 1880s. They only made those for a few years in the 1880s. 1880, 1881, 1882, and then the transition year in 1883. Which, 1883, that's when they started making the V-nickel. But there's a whole story with that, with cents and not cents. And if you want to hear that full story, check out my other video. The other video explains a lot, and I already kind of explained the other video earlier. Okay, so there were the V-nickels all the way up to 1912, so it's 1913. 1913, they only made a few, therefore they're worth like $1 million or more. Then there were the Buffalo nickels. These are really fun to collect, and I actually would recommend doing these. They're like anywhere from $5 to $10, even up to $20, but you could really easily start a collection of these Buffalo nickels. They're really fun to collect. They're from 1913 all the way up to 1937/1938, which was another transition year to the Jefferson nickels. Now, quickly after the Jefferson nickel started being made in 1938, World War II broke out. 1938, for the world, is actually when it broke out, but we joined 1942 about, and we decided, well, I gotta say, the stuff was very different in 1943. They made pennies out of little steel, and I actually have a few coins, steel pennies, and they're really cool. And they also made the nickels out of a very weird composition. They made them, like you're about to hear, I have no idea what the specific thing is. I know it's 35% silver, and then it's like a lot of weird things, like 15% manganese, 10% copper, all these other random weird metals. A lot of weird stuff. Not gold, but a lot of other stuff. Maybe even bronze for all I know. But yeah, so now, unless you get like a really good one, I have actually found a few in circulation, and what they look like is just old looking, dirty, because they're green. They turn kind of a greenish, yellowish, grayish color because of like the manganese in it and stuff. I don't know why they decided to do that, but I mean, there was a war going on, so I don't know. Then they just moved back to the normal stuff. They switched around the location of the mint mark a bit, and then they went to something interesting. 2004, 2005, they made these commemorative ones. And then what's called the Westward Journey series. And then Jefferson Modified. So the Jefferson Modified is very interesting because it's different. In fact, it looks weird because rather than it being literally like this, he's like this. So, yeah, I feel like that's kind of weird. He's literally looking at you, but I realized this kind of recently. You don't really think of this like immediately, but when you really look at it, it kind of makes sense. They decided to do this because if you look at the most famous picture of Thomas Jefferson, you can tell it's like it's interesting. It's actually a good picture of him. But surprisingly, the one where he's literally looking at you is actually that picture. It's just it's hard to tell because the coin is like this and it just barely gets his face and it's like that. So it's hard to tell, but if it was only on the coin, you could easily tell that's the one. So yeah, I thought that was very interesting. Also, today, I actually found my first 2023 coin, and it just happened to be Jefferson Modified Nickel. 2023 Jefferson Modified Nickel. By the way, look out for the penny before they stop making it, because the 2023 penny, they're not making many. They're going to be rare. Look out for it. So, yeah. Basically, that's as far into the nickel stuff as it goes. It's weird how they did the half dime to nickel thing, but let's get on to the next one. Okay, so next up's dimes. So we got draped bust dimes to start off with. I think they started 1793, I think it was 1794. And then there isn't really much to say about dimes, really, because there wasn't anything special. Dimes are actually probably the least interesting to collect. So, here are the different kinds of dimes. Draped bust, capped bust, seated liberty, barber, Mercury, and silver Roosevelt, clad Roosevelt. That's really it. There's a lot of errors, varieties, all that stuff around. Like I said, dimes are just, they're not interesting. The only thing to find in dimes is silver. That's it. And a few other random rare things. So yeah, it's getting late, and I'm going to see you tomorrow. Okay, it's a new day, and okay, let's see. Where did we leave off? Oh, right, dimes. So there isn't really much else to say with dimes, because, like, dimes, they're not that interesting to collect when you're looking for stuff with them. All you can really find is errors, varieties. I'll talk about that probably in another video, errors and varieties. And then there's also the silver. There isn't really much else. There's some rarer silver ones, but that's basically what it is. Okay, next. Okay, so next up is quarters. So this is a little interesting. It starts off with the draped bust, and then the seated liberty. Well, draped bust, capped bust, seated liberty. Then barber, and then the standing liberty quarter. These were really cool. So these were from 1916 to 1930, and they actually are a really nice design. I really like them. And what's interesting is between then, 1932 is when the Washington quarters, silver Washington quarters, were first made. 1930 was the last year of the standing liberty quarter. So you may ask, what did they make for quarters in 1931? Well, let me explain. So at that time, I don't quite remember why this was, but for some reason they were planning to make standing liberty quarters, but they just didn't do it. So yeah. They just went on with the Washington quarters starting in 1932, and then I forgot to say this with the dimes, 1965 they changed the coins from silver to a clad, which is nickel and copper. So they changed the quarters to that, and it's ever been like that ever since. Now, there's some really good things to collect coming up right here, starting with state quarters. This is what I would recommend to start coin collecting with. They are so fun to collect, and they're really easy because you can just find one and change rather than having to like buy it or something. So I would really recommend doing state quarters. That's actually what I started with after I started collecting foreign coins, which is going to be another video coming up sometime, foreign coins. So, yeah, the quarters, the state quarters, was when the U.S. Mint started in 1999 to 2008, made a quarter commemorating every state. And after that, 2009, they did territories one, so DC and territories. And then in 2010 to 2021, they made the national park quarters, where it would show a national park or some kind of national thing in each state. Like an important thing in each state and that kind of thing. So then, and they also did that for territories mixed in with it too. Then, after that, there was something interesting in the national park quarters. In the national park quarters, there were, in 2019 and 2020, there was a special thing that happened. And these quarters, they're hard to find, but trust me, if you find one, they're worth actually a good amount. They're worth like anywhere from $5 to $10 because there are only 2 million of them made. And that is the West Point quarters. A West Point quarter, well, basically what happened was in 2019, the West Point Mint, who actually usually makes the bullion silver American Eagles, which is what they're famous for. Now, they decided to make the quarters, some quarters, not all of the quarters. Most of them you see are from Denver, and sometimes you'll see Philadelphia too. But West Point, that's what you gotta look for. And it's a W mint mark rather than the D or P mint mark. They're really cool. They're from 2019 to 2020 quarters. And yeah, I have two of them. They're both the San Antonio Missions from 2019. So I'll show you that at the end of the video. So then, after that, and it's a very recent thing that they've started doing, and it's the American Women Quarters. So they started this last year in 2022, and to make them up to 2025, and it's just commemorating all of the important American women, since we don't have many women on our coins and we want more. All we've really had is like Susan B. Anthony and Sacagawea. But there's going to be all of these different American women, and I actually have all the 2022s, and they're going to start making the 2023s. In fact, they've already started with other denominations. Like I said earlier in this video, I just yesterday found a 2023 nickel in change. So you usually find after a design's released, you usually find it about a month after, because it takes a while for it to go in and then you to actually find it. So that's basically the end of the quarters. There's a lot of history about the quarters that's going to be upcoming. Like, I believe there is going to be a sports series. The quarters are a good thing to have series with, because like you find them a lot in change. They're like the perfect size for stuff. So quarters is a good thing to collect. Very good thing to collect. Okay, let's go on to the next. So the next one are half dollars. Not many people have actually heard of half dollars. So basically, half dollars are actually pretty big. They're a bit bigger than a normal, what you'd expect for a normal coin. They're actually quite a bit bigger. So half dollars, it's always followed the same thing as the diamond quarter, and then of course all the unique stuff. So then there were the Walking Liberty half dollars, which they're a beautiful design, by the way, and then after that was the Benjamin Franklin half dollars, and then the Kennedy half dollars, which is the ones we're used to now. So there's some interesting stuff that happened with the Kennedy half dollars. So 1964, the first year that they started making them, it was 90% silver like all the other ones. Now, in 1965, rather than turning it back to straight clad, it actually was 40% silver and 60% copper. It's kind of interesting. I don't know why they decided to do that, but from 1965 to 1970, they did that. Then it's always just been clad 1971 to the present. Another interesting thing is starting in 2002, they started making NIFCs, which stands for not intended for circulation, because like $half, they didn't really need to be used much. And a similar kind of thing went with the dollars. I'll explain that soon. So yeah, there isn't much else because there haven't been any series with the $half or anything. $half you don't really find in circulation, but I wouldn't recommend that for starting coin collecting, but definitely later down, try different denominations. Like I said, probably start with quarters and then maybe do pennies and nickels, which is what I did, and then you can move up to these $half and dollar coins, and that's the next one. So, next one's dollar coins. So you might think that's really strange, and yeah, these are really hard to find, but basically, you know how there's dollar bills? Well, there's dollar coins as well, and bills, that's going to be another topic for another video. So these dollar coins is a very interesting denomination. So they started back in same time that all the other ones started, in about 1794. So, what's interesting about these, though, is nowadays they're a bit bigger than a quarter. They're a similar size to a quarter. They're slightly bigger. Now, the large dollars, they were giant coins. They were giant. And they were always made of 90% silver, up to 19... I'll explain that soon. But the designs were slightly different. So, of course, it started with drape bust, flowing here, a few different designs. And then so it started with drape bust and then went on. But there were two different kinds of Sea of Liberties. So there was one where the back was normal, like the normal kind of what you'd see on the other ones. Now, there was the ones before that, they still had the Sea of Liberty obverse, but the reverse was different. These were called I have a hard time saying this name, but it's like, I think it's pronounced Gobrecht dollars. It's really hard to spell. It's like Gobrecht, but they're called Gobrecht dollars, and I don't quite know why they're called that. I think it's just the last name of the person that designed them. But yeah, they're pretty cool. It's like an eagle flying on the back, and yeah, that's basically what it is. And then after that was something what like professional coin collectors love collecting, and that is Morgan dollars. And I would really not recommend this for starting coin collecting because it can get really expensive. They can go from anywhere from $30 to like $200. They can get really expensive. Me personally, I only have one just because of how expensive they get, and it costs $60. So yeah, but yeah, the Morgan dollars, they're called that because it was designed by Morgan. That was somebody whose last name was Morgan. I don't know what the first name was, but that design, it's Liberty. It's Liberty. On the front, and then on the back is this classic eagle. Everybody knows the design. It's a very famous design from 1878 to 1904, but this is where it gets weird. Then there was also one year in 1921 where they did it. Kind of random, but yeah. And then also starting in 1921 was the peace dollar. That is actually now like one of the only coins in my collection I'm actually missing. So later when I show you my coins, unfortunately, I won't have one to show you, but let me explain it real quick. So it's Lady Liberty, and then there's like these cool like rays coming out of her head, and then on the back, what's different is the eagle, rather than having its wings all out, like ready to like attack, it's all peaceful and like looking off of the top of like a little rock, and that has to do with why it's called peace dollar. In fact, the rock actually says peace on it. And that's because 1921 was a few years after World War I ended, and the U.S. wanted peace. And that's why they did the dollar coin with that. they also continued, they tried to make them all the years leading up to this, but I don't know why they just weren't able to do it. So it started in 1921 to like 1927, I think, and then continued in 1936 and 1937, I believe. Like I said, they're all 90% silver, 10% copper. And then the Eisenhower dollars, which me personally, I do not like the design. So it has Eisenhower on the front and then an eagle landing on the moon on the back. I actually like the eagle landing on the moon. They use that for the Susan B. Anthony dollar as well. I like that, but the Eisenhower portrait's just not the best. It's kind of simple. I just don't really like it. I actually have the full set of Eisenhower dollars because one of my uncles gave me the whole set, and they're from 1971 to 1978. And basically, in 1976, they made the bicentennial. They made bicentennial quarters, half dollars, and dollar coins. So on the quarters, there was a drummer boy. On the half dollars, it was the Independence Hall. And on the dollar, it was the Liberty Bell. So they can get really fun to collect. My nicest Eisenhower dollar is a bicentennial. It's really nice. It's like MS-60 probably. And yeah, and grading coins. It's probably a topic for another video. There's going to be a lot of videos in this series coming out soon after this one. So, yeah. Then, that's when they changed it to the small dollars, which first were the Susan B. Anthony's. And basically, Susan B. Anthony dollars, they had Susan B. Anthony, and people actually, because of the size, people actually thought they were quarters. So they only made them for a few years, 1979 to 1981, and then back again in 1999. And then 2000 to 2000 and 2001 were the 2 years that they made the circulation Sacagawea dollars, and they changed them from the silver color to the gold color, which, by the way, that's not real gold. It's just like brass or something. But yeah, so yeah, the Sacagawea dollars. Then in 2002, and then from 2002 to 2008, they made the Sacagawea dollars, and I explained that with the half dollar, so there isn't much explaining there. And then in 2009 to 2011, they actually made these Native American dollars for circulation, and then they made from 2012 all the way up to now, 2023. I don't think there's been any that have been released yet. Maybe, I'm not sure. And yeah, and those were NIFC, Native American dollars. And then another fun thing to collect, probably collect them after quarters, pennies, and nickels, because they're always at least $1, and that's the presidential dollars. So presidential dollars, the intended for circulation, that's not what they're officially called, they're just circulation ones. I kind of like calling them IFCs. And they commemorate each president. And yeah, the IFCs started in 2007 and went to 2011. Then from 2012 up to 2018, they made the NIFCs, and then they also in 2020 did the George H.W. Bush presidential dollar coin. And that's basically all for the dollar coin. So yeah, but there's one other thing. You might think that's probably the end of it. No, it's actually not. There's a lot of other things. They're very interesting. I won't spend much time talking about them. I don't even know much about them myself. And that's the gold coins. They started like the same time that those other coins started, and they went to like 1920s, 1930s, early 1910s, that kind of time, early 1900s. And basically, what they were gold coins. They're made of like pure gold, I believe, and they were gold dollars. Gold $2.50 coins, which is a really weird denomination. Gold $5 coins, gold $10 coins, and gold gold $20 coins. So there was the quarter eagle, $2.50, half eagle, $5, and then the eagle, $10, and then double eagle, which was $20, and they were a full ounce of gold. Those are worth thousands and thousands of dollars. But me personally, I don't have any of them. They can get really hard to get your hands on. I've never seen any of them. St. Gaudens double eagle is the famous one. That's where the most valuable coin comes in. The most valuable coin was a 1933 double eagle, and that was, I believe, a little bit less than $19 million, and that's the most valuable coin. So that's basically it for that. So, are you ready to see some of these coins? Well, here we go. Okay, so now we're going to check out the coins. Hopefully you're excited. So let's start off with the half cent. So I only have one, and it just happens to be the classic head. Let me put it up to the camera. It's kind of hard to see. So there it is. You can kind of see it there. And half cent. The next one is a large cent. Actually, I have two large cents here. This is the first one. It's a 1799 draped bust. See it there, and then the reverse. And then I got a matron head here from 1824. And then I got the small cents, so flying eagle. It's in a flip, so there's a bit of a glare. I don't know which side it is. There. And then Indian head cent. Indian head on the front and wreath on the back. And then I have this nicely toned Lincoln wheat cent. By the way, the VDB kind is coming my way soon. So when I get it, I'll show you in a YouTube short. And then the steel cent. And then I have this really nice 1972. Let me get the back. To touch it only by its edges so it doesn't get any fingerprints on it. And then, I guess next is nickels. So I have a shield nickel here. I have a V nickel. I have a buffalo nickel. I have a war nickel. This one's in nice condition. 1844p war nickel. And then this one's a proof. I'll tell you more about proofs in another video. So 1970 proof, this one's nice. Here, let me show you the back. And then I also have a 2009 proof, the Jefferson Modified. So I have a 2023, so it's the same design, it's just not the proof. So there it is. I found the first 2023 coin recently. So that's it for nickels, and the next is dimes. Oh. So I have a capped bust dime, a seated Liberty. So capped bust is 1835, seated Liberty is 1856. This one's an 1899 Barber. And then the Mercury dime is a 1943p Mercury. And then a 1963 Silver Roosevelt. It's a Denver. And then for quarters, I got a Barber quarter, 1914 p. 1927 Standing Liberty quarter. 1958D Silver Washington. Then I have this Proof Washington. It's a 1978 S. Look at that. Let me show you the back. The back actually has a few fingerprints on it, but they're pretty unnoticeable. So yeah, then I have one of these West Point ones. This is a San Antonio Mission. Let's see if I can get it on here. The West Point. Let's see. You gotta go close here. So you can kind of see the West Point right over there. So it's gonna be right there. You can kind of see the W right there. So I have that one, and then I have a 1907 O Barber $half. This is the one in the famous short, my uncle's best $half and my best $half. This is my best $half. And then I have 1945 S Walker. And this one's cool. I've been wanting a Benji for so long. I got it kind of recently. It's a 1956. Look at that. And it's graded MS64. Now, let me bring it up closely. Look at that. And the back's what's more beautiful. It's a Philadelphia. Look at that. It's amazing. That's why it's MS64. And then I have a 40%er. 1968 Denver. So that's it for the $half, and then here's some dollars. So Morgan, these designs are just so cool. This one's 1896 Philadelphia. And then got the Eisenhower dollars, a 1971 D. You can kind of see it there. Then I got this 1999 Susan B. Anthony dollar. And then 2000 Sacagawea. This is a Sacagawea dollar. And then this Proof William McKinley. So this is cool. So the front looks okay. Now the back looks nice. Look at that. Ow. And then I have this really nice, it's not graded, which probably should be George H.W. Bush one. This probably get like MS65 or something. But yeah, it's not proof, by the way. It's not proof. It's just all pure shine. And it looks like that's it. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, like and subscribe. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, like and subscribe. If there's anything I missed, comment that down below. And well, I'll see you next time. Bye.